coming up on the Lead Ministry Podcast.
And so the ant is really the hallmark. If you've ever read the book of Proverbs, even at a cursory read, you know that the ant is upheld as the diligent one.
And now your host, Josh Denhart.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. My name is Josh Denhart. Grateful that you're here. We're going to have a lot of fun on this episode and also the next, a total of 4 episodes. We're going to be talking about productivity and about biblical productivity and maybe even kind of the anti-21st century Americana, go faster, go harder, stay up later, and burn yourself out. So we are here with the Lead Ministry Podcast, and I want to welcome my co-host, Mr. Bill. How are you, buddy?
Good. It is so good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's been a bit since we've been hanging together.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, but I'm excited to jump back in.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. You were overseas for a bit. That's a good case of the normals when you're as important as you are, and so we're good. So here we are, the Lead Ministry Podcast, excited about this. And one good thing today we're talking, I just kind of, I don't know, Bill, you could call it something different maybe, but I'm calling it Productivity 2.0. Why? Because in America, productivity has been this massive buzz thing, right? This massive buzzword. Let's extract 27 hours out of the 24 that the regular people get. Can we hack the system? Can we get more done? Can I actually lay up more hay in the barn than anybody else? And so we're always thinking about this idea of productivity. Well, a lot of those strategies lead to burnout, lead to destruction of other important things in our lives. We become myopic, focused only on certain things, not on the bigger picture. And so I'm excited about addressing this from, now, mind you, this Lead Productively course that I've written and published and produced. And so Lead Productively, definitely the 21st century. It's like the tangential like it's the opposite of what people would think about productivity in a lot of ways. Now, there are some principles, of course, that you're like, oh, okay, I've heard that. But we're really looking at this from this super obscure passage in the Bible. And this passage is found, it's like nestled down in the middle of Nowhereville, Proverbs chapter 30. And it's one of my favorite passages. I've studied it for years. I've sought to emulate it for years. And so I'm just going to read it for us out loud. Proverbs 30, verses 24 to 28. It says this: 4 things are small on the earth, but they are exceedingly wise. The ants are not a strong people, but they prepare their food in the summer. Rock badgers are not mighty people, yet they make their houses in the rocks. Locusts have no king, yet all of them go out in ranks. The lizard you may grasp with your hands, yet it's in kings' palaces. And so, Bill, these are going to be the 4 small things, these 4 small animals that we're going to talk about, these little creatures that appear to have not that much value to them, right? The ant, the badger, the locust, and the lizard. But Solomon tells us that they are not only small, they're exceedingly wise. And so that's kind of the path of today. Any thoughts before we kick this in, my man?
No, I just love the Bible. Yeah. It's so amazing that, like we like to think that we discover new things and we're, so advanced as a civilization.
Sure.
And yet when you read this wisdom from Solomon, right away, even as you read it, you go, oh my goodness, the depth that is there is just amazing.
Yeah. And so we're going to touch on each one of these 4 little creatures: the ant, which stands for diligence; the badger, which stands for focus; the locust, which is going to be kind of the paragon of organization; and the lizard, how to gain entrance with the right people. So today we're going to jump in. Each one of these episodes is going to touch on one of those 4 little creatures that are super small, but they're exceedingly wise. And so the ant is really the hallmark, if you've ever read the book of Proverbs, even at a cursory read, you know that the ant is upheld as the diligent one. The ant is doing work when nobody else wants to. It's doing it when no one else desires to do it, and it's winning big. So the ant is diligence. Okay, so on the podcast, as if you're a frequent listener to the podcast, you know that we have 3 big buckets. Let's define it. So we're going to define diligence. We're going to develop it, take a little bit deeper, and then we're going to have some application. How can you actually incorporate a greater level of diligence, this little small animal ant, and emulate some of its qualities? So what is diligence? Well, I looked this up today, and diligence, a definition says this: consistent and earnest effort to accomplish what is undertaken, persistent exertion of body or mind. And so a couple words here: consistent, earnest, effort, seeking to accomplish. It's persistent exertion. So there's an energy level involved, Bill.
Oh yeah. 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 It sounds like something that our society isn't very good at right now for the most part.
Isn't that the truth? It's like, okay, let's just talk about that just for a minute. Help me with that, because I think I agree.
Yeah, I think it actually stems from, I've thought a lot about this. I think it stems from wanting everything now in our society. We've been trained, especially, I think all generations now have been trained to get everything that they want immediately. We have instant coffee. We have, instant food. We have drive-throughs. We have everything at our fingertips.
Dude, Amazon, it can come to you not just in 2 days. That used to be the big thing. You'll be here in 2 days. Bro, sometimes it's there by noon.
Yeah, there's some parts of the country right now that have 1 hour delivery for Amazon.
That's just obscene.
It's kind of scary. I don't want that sort of power at my fingertips. I'm too impulsive.
I'll say it is definitely too impulsive. Like, we could all of a sudden get in big trouble financially, don't you think? Like, all of a sudden, if we could, I'm going to buy that. I want it right now. And so, yeah. So diligence is this consistent, earnest effort to accomplish what is undertaken. And, you said it quite well. And I think Burger King said it for us all 20 years ago: your way, right away.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we apply that. So that's like in maybe consumerism, right? Yeah. But we apply consumerism to our work as well. And that's where I think we have a problem with diligence, because we want to accomplish what we want to accomplish immediately with very little effort and very little consistency. We just want it to be done.
We do. And so then we all of a sudden, like the idea that we have to go out and work for our food and literally go hunt, be intelligent, whatever, and then come home, skin the thing, clean the thing, start the fire, tend the fire, wait for the coals to go down, and then you put your food on and then you wait. We have none of that going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's interesting about this though is there is sort of a nostalgic return.
There is
to some of these things. Like, my wife and I stumbled a few years ago across something called slow TV. Have you ever heard this?
I've not heard this. It sounds painful.
Slow TV is like television, not like television at all happens today. It is, in television today, they cut every 4 seconds or every 5 seconds to a different scene to keep you.
Okay, so like a different, they have 4 different cameras, the whole deal.
Right. But slow TV, it was essentially this movement, I think it came out of Sweden, where they basically were like, we're going to show you sheep. And these sheep are in a pasture.
And you just watch them.
And you watch them, and then as time goes on, somebody comes out there and they're like, we're going to show you shearing this sheep, but we're never going to cut away. You're going to watch us go get the instrument out. You're going to watch us go to the sheep, take our time, get them ready, sit on our stool, shear the sheep, take the wool,
I kind of
spin
dig
the wool.
I kind of dig it.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting, you know? And so it's like, when you think about that, like a process that you have to do that has multiple steps, like you were talking about, maybe like going and getting an animal and killing it and
Skinning it.
skinning it and then cooking and like that takes a long time. That takes forever, right? We're just used to going and picking up a package of hot dogs at the store and we're grilling it the next 5 minutes. But slow TV is all about, hey man, what does this all look like all lengthened out?
What does it really take is what we're talking about.
Yeah, what does it take? Yes, absolutely.
What does it take? And so that's this concept of diligence. What does it take? And here's what it takes. Diligence does what no one wants to do when no one wants to do it. This is my personal definition that I've come up with for what diligence is and diligence does. And I got to be honest, Bill, like I had to apply this today. Okay. Yeah. I got up at 5:30 in the morning and I hit my snooze one time and I was laying there and I thought, you know what? It's going to be best if you get up and prepare for this podcast. And and I was like, I could probably wing it. I know this concept quite well. And I thought, you know what? Diligence does what nobody wants to do, which is get your buns out of bed right now at 5:30 in the morning. And diligence does this thing when nobody else wants to do it. What was it? Prepare and work hard and prep for this podcast at 5:30 in the morning when I would much rather be sleeping. I applied the principle of diligence. Now watch this. The other piece that I thought about driving home from taking my son to school, because I'd been up for multiple hours before I took him to school. Here's the deal. Here's how diligence serves me. I want super, super bad to position myself to feel great. And so I feel great right now. I don't feel rushed. I don't feel freaked out. I've prepared. And so the short momentary pain that I endured at 5:30 in the morning really was in hopes of a future that was easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. It actually reminds me of this other quote that dovetails really well into this, which is successful people essentially wait until they have energy till they do something. Or no, unsuccessful people wait until they have energy to do something. Successful people do something in order to have that thing accomplished and build energy. That's
it. And so I got up at 5:30 in the morning with no energy, and I really did not want to do this. The only thing I had to drum myself up. I had to stir up inside of me and literally remember diligence does what nobody wants to do. Get up right now when nobody wants to do it. Getting up right now. You know what I mean? And so that's what successful people seek to do. Do I accomplish that all the time? The answer is no, but I did today. So props to me, right? Yeah. Okay. So what does the Bible, we're going to develop this a little bit, right? We defined it. Diligence is hard work, consistency towards an agreed upon end game. Okay. What does the Bible say about diligence? Well, I'm going to jump back to what the Bible says in Proverbs 30:25 about the ant. The ants are not a strong people, but they prepare their food in the summer. Now, Bill, I happen to live in the great state of Iowa. It's kind of like Nazareth. Not really that much good comes from here, you know, but
corn.
But that's it. And so in Iowa, we're a highly agrarian culture. And by the way, the Bible was it was an agrarian culture. And so this idea of crops and of harvest is very central to the Bible, and it's central to my life because I live in Iowa. Well, here's the deal. What's happening in the summer for a farmer? Absolutely nothing. Why? Because you're sitting there and you're like, hope it rains and I hope it shines, because that's really all that needs to happen at this point. But the ants, they're not a strong people, but the way that they compensate is that they are preparing their food in doing things when they really don't have to. right? I mean, it's like there's really nothing that you can do to make the crops grow better. But you could go work in the barn. You could work on your tractor. So you do all of the things because guess what? There's a day coming and it's called harvest to where in Iowa, like people they're putting in 80 hours for multiple weeks because there's they have so much to get done in a very short period of time. And so a dumb farmer is asleep at the wheel in the summer. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden his tractor's like, oh crap, the tractor needs the oil changed. Right now in the middle of harvest, that's about as dumb as you can get. And so a diligent person does things when they don't absolutely have to be done so that they can prepare their future quite well.
I love this concept.
Yeah.
So would you say that it's accurate to say then that essentially what the ant is doing is getting ready for the work ahead?
Yes.
Essentially. They're 100%. They're pre-preparing.
That is my life. My life is pre-preparing. And so all of a sudden I want to do, there's a great quote and it says, doing your best today puts you in the best position for tomorrow. And so I'm going to do my absolute best today and I'm going to be teed up. If I blow it off today, tomorrow's absolutely going to be harder. And there are times where I am just physically exhausted. I don't have enough. And I'm going to bank on the idea that 3 days earlier, I did a lot of work. And now I can take a day off. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But yes, it's doing work so that your future work is already kind of pre-done. Here's a great proverb. It says this in Proverbs 24:10. This is one of my favorites. It says, if you're slack in the day of distress, your strength is limited. If you slack in the day of distress. Now, I have this as what I call the JRV or the Josh Revised Version. Here it is. In the day of distress, if you take a vacay, friend, you are cray-cray. Am I right? So
I love that.
I'll read the original one. It says, if you're slack in the day of distress, your strength is limited. If in the day of distress, you take a vacay, friend, you are cray-cray. There's like I want to hedge against the day of distress. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does definitely
I want
make
to
sense.
do so much so that the day of distress is actually not distressing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fascinating. I actually have a concept that's really similar to this in my life, and I just call it being nice to future Bill.
Oh, I love this. Every single bit of this. Tell me more. I got it. I just tease that out because I love every bit of it. Be nice to future Bill.
Yeah. So it actually comes from The Simpsons. Okay. I like growing up, The Simpsons were the cartoon my parents would never let me watch, but I would sneak and watch it anyways. Okay?
Good for you. Good for you.
So confession there. But The Simpsons, basically like Homer is challenged to do something and he goes, I'm not going to do that. That's future Homer's
problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, he would just always be like, no, that's not like, should I go to bed right now? No, I'm going to stay up really late and watch things and like eat too much food and all these things because that's future Homer's problem,
Yes.
And so the opposite of that though is, like being nice to your future self.
Oh,
like we can project into the future and know that, you yourself are going to have to deal with something in the future. And so what can you do right now to make your future self better? This is
the money statement of this podcast right now.
Yeah. So I actually do it every single night. What I do every single night is it's super simple. And it's like, why does that even matter? But I pick out my clothes the night before.
I do this kind of stuff too.
And I lay them out. So they're all, I call it flat bill because the clothes are flat. Yeah. And I lay them all out in my living room so that I don't disturb my wife in the morning looking for clothing.
That's fair.
I lay them all out. I prepare the coffee maker because I'm going to drink coffee in the morning. So I just can hit the button when I wake up. I lay out any of the supplements that I take. I write down in my journal the 3 things that I want to accomplish the next day. I do everything that I can the night before so that when morning Bill wakes up, he doesn't have 1,000 decisions to make to move his life forward. You just fall into what you already started.
We are the same person. I lay out my clothes. I set out my food, right?
Mm-hmm.
I prep the coffee maker. And I actually, now this is one that I do, is that I set my alarm for all of the things that I have going on. I have so much going on in the day. I actually set alarms to go, okay, I got a podcast with Bill. Don't miss that. You know what I mean? And
right, absolutely.
And then there are times where I will, like you do, map out what am I going to be doing the next day. Interestingly enough, we'll do a podcast on this a little bit another time. But my mind, my subconscious mind is now crunching the numbers of my tomorrow's day. And I'm actually winning while I'm sleeping. My mind is like, okay, I get it. And so like a sleep Josh is now attacking tomorrow's tasks subconsciously.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's brilliant.
Be nice to future Bill. And so guess what? Today, I could tear up, dude. I could tear up. I literally got out of bed so that I could not be upset and angry and stressed with my 3-hour away from when I woke up self. I was really nice to Josh today. That's so good. That is so good. Thank you for sharing that. Be nice to future Bill. Well, here's another one. The hand of the diligent. We're talking about diligence, the ant. The hand of the diligent will rule, but the slack hand will be put to forced labor. Now, I'm going to speak very boldly to this, Bill. I simply do not like to be told what to do at any level. I don't want a boss to tell me, hey, here's the deal. Here's the tasks for your day. I don't like that. I don't want that. The majority of people, I was at a speaking thing yesterday. It was a half-day retreat, and I posed this question, and not a single person in the room was like, yeah, I actually love somebody to boss me around. Nobody wants that. And so the hand of the diligent will rule. And that means that they're going to be their own boss. But if you are not diligent, you're going to have a slack hand, and other folk are going to be like, hey, just get over here. You do this. I don't want to be told what to do. Does this make sense to you?
This makes so much sense. And a diligent person is the type of person who everyone wants to work with as well.
Yes.
Like as a manager of things, it is so draining to have to prod and poke somebody to do the next thing, and remind them over and over and over again. But if you have somebody who is diligent, man, this is so true because you just let them go and you watch how they drive themselves and they accomplish the vision, the mission with creativity, and you don't have to hold their hand for everything.
Oh, my word, right? This is so good because here's the thing. The hand of the diligent will rule. And you know what? Those who are faithful in little will be faithful in much. And the diligent it's like this. It's like somebody was like, man, you seem so lucky. No, I'm just diligent. I just kick butt and I take names and things happen to work out for me. So like, what do you want to say? Like luck tends to favor the diligent. Am I right?
Yes, that is so true. Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, you put yourself like when you're diligent and you're doing even what we were talking about before, when you're pre-deciding things and setting up things, what happens is when opportunities come to you, you are in a position to seize those opportunities and to move them forward. So luck doesn't really have anything to do with it. The opportunities come to everybody.
That's right.
The opportunities come to every single person. It's have you positioned yourself previously so that when this comes about, you can seize that opportunity.
Not only just seize it, maybe even see it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's tons of people that I know that they are scattered, they're freaked out, they are behind, they're running like a crazy person. As they say it these days, this person is a hot mess express, the hot mess express. And all of a sudden, because they're such a hot mess, then opportunities are literally flying right by them, and they're like, they don't even see them.
Right. Yeah. I've been there. Like even recently, there's been times where because of circumstances out of my control, I have.
Me too.
essentially gotten to like the red line. And what I've noticed is when you're in that position, when you're hurried and everything's coming at you at once, your efficiency just goes out the window. You can only just kind of respond to things. And there's people who live their whole lives that way.
And I do not want to be around those people. I don't want to work with those people. I don't want to have those people on my team. I can't take it.
Right. Absolutely. And what those people need to learn is exactly what we're talking about, which is diligence.
Diligence. You're exactly right. In diligence, as we've been defining, it does what no one wants to do when no one wants to do it. But watch this. Everybody in their mind is like, well, I don't want to do that. And I certainly don't want to do it right now. Well, your future self is going to love you for it. Mm-hmm. So do it now, even though you don't want to do it, and you're going to be happy. And so it's truly the discipline of diligence. And so it is like literally living in the future. Diligence is living in the future. And so that's kind of crazy. Okay, got a quick story time. There was a dude, he's a friend of mine. His name's Tony. If he was here, I'd tell it right to his face. We love each other. He comes to my office one time and he throws his arms out and he said, "Why is it that the senior leaders at the church always walk out of some big meeting and hand me some junky job that has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm supposed to do? Why do I keep getting handed this?" And I took stock, Bill, and I stopped and I was like, okay, time out. This guy is my friend. I have earned the right to be heard. I'm going to take the risk. And I said, "Hey, bud, would you close the door? Sit down. You got time?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "The reason that they're coming to you and they're not coming to me is that they come up with this harebrained idea," and sometimes it was quite harebrained. Does that make sense? It's a harebrained idea, and somebody's got to pull this off because they're not going to pull it off. And so they're looking around and they're like, "Well, Josh, we could never give it to him. He's busier than a one-legged man in a kicking contest. Can't give it to him." And they go, "Who else? Tony, he's got time on his hands." And so the diligent one, me in this case, and Tony is far more diligent now, but that was just a season for him. And he had slack hands. And so he was being put to forced labor and he did not like what he was being handed. And so I said, "Bro, do you never want to get this stuff again?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Start killing it and start like literally crushing things. And people are going to see that and they're going to not be like, well, who do we dump this to?" Well, I don't want to be dumped anything. I want to run my own life. So where do we begin? Okay, we're going to close this off with some development here. Where do we begin to develop diligence? So this idea of developing diligence. Well, the Bible says in Proverbs 12:27, "A slothful man does not roast his prey, but the precious possession of a man is diligence." Now stick with me. The Bible has a lot to say about the sloth as contrasted with the ant. They're antonyms of one another. Slothful person, ant person, or diligent person. So it says here, the slothful man does not roast his prey, but the precious possession of a man is diligence. Okay, I did the JRV here again, the Josh Revised Version. The slothful cooks a wonderful piece of meat in the microwave and has a pathetically lesser version. Am I right?
I love the Josh Revised Version. It's amazing.
Yeah. But it's true, right? Because the original says this: "A slothful man does not roast his prey." By the way, roasting a piece of meat is a time-taking process. This is not fast flash fry in the pan. Like if you take a good old piece of meat and you roast it, there's all kinds of flavors. There's going to be caramelization. It is a better thing, but watch this. It takes time. So if you are not diligent, you're hungrier than a biting sow. And you are so hungry, I do not have time to wait for this to cook and be its absolute best. I am literally famished and I have got to do the fastest thing. Well, you lose. You don't get the best. A slothful person takes a like Wagyu. My son's always talking. I don't know. He watches YouTube, right? This Wagyu piece of meat that's like $400 for a slice of meat. What in the world?
Yeah.
Right. But a fool would take that precious piece of meat and stick it in a microwave. That's a pathetically lesser version. And so the deal is this right now mentality destroys future outcomes. And I mean, how exciting is it when I take a day of my life and I slow cook a pork loin? I smoke it, and all of a sudden you're just kind of waiting. And then when you eat it, there's a real sense of satisfaction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's like that, you're just slowing down in the appropriate things to slow down in and work at it over time. That really does bring us a ton of satisfaction in our lives.
It does.
And I think that is kind of the core of what we were talking about earlier, which is we're missing that as a society.
Yes. We are missing it completely as a society. And so that's why this is why it's productivity 2.0. It's like, okay, we tried 1.0, the Americana version, move faster, go harder, stay up later, not really helping us.
No.
And so this ancient biblical wisdom nestled down in Proverbs 30, the most obscure passage like basically ever, it wins, and it wins well. I think you're right, Bill. So here's another one. The question then is begged. So is there no rest for the righteous? In other words, like you're saying, crush it, kill it, get after it, get up early, work harder, always be planning and preparing ahead. Well, so is there no rest for the righteous? Huge. No, there is rest for the righteous. So like somebody may say, are you suggesting we become workaholics? The answer is a big fat no. Here's what I am suggesting. For the diligent, there is rest, there is margin, and there are choices. Mm-hmm. There, like a diligent Josh could, and I thought about it last night, but I actually wanted to take rest. So I thought about preparing for today's podcasts last night. And I thought, you know what? I crushed it today. I did a 4-hour workshop. It was a big thing. I had 2 coaching calls. I think I'm actually going to choose rest. So because I'm diligent and I knew that I was going to be able to get up tomorrow morning and have plenty of time to do this. I had rest. Why? Because I had margin and I now had choices. The diligent has choices. Does that make sense to you, Bill?
That makes a ton of sense. And I think the other piece is you can't really rest well unless you've worked well.
That's it.
Yeah. We live in a culture where we say, I kind of, half-heartedly worked all week, and now I'm going to spend my whole weekend watching Netflix and TikTok and or whatever your rest thing is, and that doesn't, in the end, it's like kind of what are you telling yourself with your actions when you live life that way? And that just reduces your confidence. It reduces your, vitality as a person and your life as a person.
I mean, watch this. Diligence begets diligence. It kind of like self-feeds. Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead.
Well, I just think it's interesting to think about, is there no rest for the righteous? And the idea is what people don't understand is that when you begin to practice diligence and you do it consistently, as it says, you find that you have way more like satisfaction in your life. It's so much more meaningful than living life, halfway all of the time.
Or, and then because halfway is going to be always reacting. Yep. Well, here's what I'm getting ready to show you now. If you're not on YouTube watching this, you should, because right now and those of you who are only on the audio podcast side of things, I have now a photograph of one of my favorite things of all time. It is a moving sidewalk in an airport. Now, Bill, have you ever stood on a moving sidewalk in an airport?
Oh yeah, they have them at O'Hare.
Okay, yeah. And I fly out over here quite a bit. And so here's the interesting thing. Do you realize that you can actually be standing still physically and still be making forward progress because of the moving sidewalk?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
couple quick things. Like, I've obsessed about the moving sidewalk. My wife is like, I get it. We're on a moving sidewalk. You don't need to preach at me about diligence. Okay.
Yes.
But somebody had to take a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of energy to construct something
Yes.
that I can actually sit down and completely rest and make forward progress, still be making forward progress. And so all of my life is a moving sidewalk. And I'm dead serious about this. I've created systems and processes that actually carry the mission forward so that when I am personally physically tired, I can actually take rest and the mission is still moving forward because it doesn't necessarily require my direct action because I've built something that does that forward motion, not needing me.
I love that. So tell me then, just out of my curiosity,
Sure.
tell me, what are some of your moving sidewalks?
Oh, my soul. Like, we should have an, okay. Where should I start? Okay. Here's one. The PowerPoint that I'm using for this podcast. It's a template. And I created it really well once with the exact fonts, with the exact framing, with the exact everything, so that when I come to this morning, I didn't have to create something from scratch. I had already pre-done a ton of the work. So that this one is one that like serves us today, even right now. Now here's another one. If you got to be on YouTube to see this, of course, but this is my home studio. This is like a back camera showing my home studio. Guess what, Bill? I worked ultra hard to set up this studio so that in less than 30 seconds, I can literally be recording a high capacity video and be recording a podcast with you. I have zero setup because I've been diligent. Does that make sense?
Yes, I love that.
Another thing, whenever somebody purchases leadministry.com courses, there's nothing for me to do. As soon as somebody purchases, they get the codes, the download code, they get reminder emails, everything is automated. And I'm like, oh, wow, I get to serve somebody through Lead Ministry and all the courses, all 12 or 11 courses that I have. I don't have to do anything. I've already done all of the work. And so now I'm sitting on a moving sidewalk talking to my son about some random video game that he's into, and I can be fully present and create some civilization and not be frantically scurrying around because I've diligently built systems that serve me future forward.
I love those.
Dude,
all of those. Amazing.
We're literally scratching the surface. I have 1,000 of these. Okay.
Yep.
So diligence does what no one wants to do when no one wants to do it. Well, this has been fun. This is one of my absolute favorite topics. I am so grateful, Bill, for your friendship. And you are this kind of guy. We kind of serve one another in this way. So you insert, podcast listener, you insert your name. Be kind to future Josh. Be kind to future Bill. Insert your name. Even out loud. Yes, I'm going to ask you out loud in your car or wherever. Say the words, I need to be kind to future, insert your name. Well, gang, this has been just another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. One of my favorites. This was a fun one today. We'll catch you guys on the next one where we'll take on really podcast number 2 about this idea of productivity 2.0 from the ancient wisdom of Solomon. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Lead Ministry Podcast. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the power of diligence, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening and stay diligent.